Welcome to the deep dive. If you're trying to navigate relationships, well, anywhere in the 2020s, you know that simply saying, I'm dating someone, requires. It feels like it needs a graduate thesis for context.
It's astonishing, isn't it? The lexicon of modern romance is changing so fast.
It feels like you need a PhD in dating just to figure out what these new terms even mean, especially when they're describing these really low-effort, emotionally manipulative tactics.
Yeah. The goal used to be commitment, and now it seems like we spend all our energy just trying to define ambiguity. And today, we're cracking open that complex digital dictionary.
We've drawn insight from everywhere: bustling dating advice forums on Reddit, some clinical analysis from mental health experts, and even notes from veteran matchmakers. Our mission for this deep dive is, well, it's laser-focused. We want to decode the core psychological patterns of this low-investment behavior, specifically tackling the frustrating and newly emerged trend known as paperclipping.
That's exactly right. We aren't just defining the terms. We're explaining the psychological mechanics at their core so you can spot the pattern, understand why it works on us, and, most importantly, protect your emotional energy from these time-wasting cycles.
Okay, so let's establish the playing field first. The whole foundation of modern low-effort dating behavior really rests on a few key concepts. You have to start with the baseline, and that's ghosting.
Ghosting is the progenitor, really. It's the original sin of all these behaviors.
Right.
It's the abrupt, complete vanishing act. You had a good interaction, maybe even a few dates, and then just silence. No explanation, no closure. They just disappear.
And while ghosting is a definitive end, what happens when they almost disappear? I think we've all been there.
Oh.
Someone keeps you slightly engaged, tossing you just enough attention to keep you interested.
But never committing.
Never committing to a real date or moving things forward.
That's where breadcrumbing comes in.
Yeah.
It's a very low-level sort of Hansel and Gretel tactic.
Right, the fairy tale.
Exactly. They drop these little crumbs of attention, a flirty text, a quick follow on social media, a cryptic comment with, and this is key, genuinely no intention of meeting up or building a relationship. They just want to see if you're still there.
And if they like you enough to keep you on tap but aren't really prioritizing you, we move into the backup plan terminology, don't we?
Precisely. We see benching, which is keeping you on the sidelines. You're being talked to just enough to remain a viable romantic option, but they are actively dating others or just prioritizing other parts of their life, keeping you on hold as a backup.
I always see stashing as a more malicious version of benching. That's when you're actually in something that feels like a relationship, but they hide you.
Yes. Stashing is hiding the relationship entirely. No introductions to friends, no family meetings, zero mention on social media.
Nothing.
The message they're sending, whether they know it or not, is that they're hedging their bets, that they may still be looking for someone better to come along.
Wow.
And if you are being stashed, the collective wisdom from, matchmakers and dating forums is unanimous. Recognize you are no one's second choice and cut bait.
And when all these confusing low-commitment tactics merge together, what do you inevitably end up in?
A situationship.
The dreaded situationship.
It's a relationship without a definition. You have the intimacy, the emotional connection, the frequent communication. I mean, it feels like a relationship, but it completely lacks the official commitment, the clarity, and the security of one.
And it's often the direct result of engaging with people who use all those low-effort tactics we just talked about.
Exactly.
So all those behaviors, ghosting, benching, breadcrumbing, they create the perfect environment for this next level of manipulation.
Let's shift gears and talk about the specific pattern that brings them all together. Paperclipping. Where does this ridiculous term even come from?
The origin is, it's actually a piece of technology history. Paperclipping is inspired by Clippy.
No way.
Yes, the infamous, slightly irritating Microsoft Office assistant from the late 90s and early 2000s. Oh, the digital menace. That large-eyed paperclip that would just pop up out of nowhere, completely unsolicited, asking a distracting, low-value question. It looks like you're writing a letter.
Need some help with that.
Just when you thought you had momentum, Clippy appeared to derail you. I think I still have nightmares about that little sound effect.
Well, that is the perfect analogy. The term was coined by an artist, Samantha Rothenberg, who created a comic using the Clippy character to describe this exact pattern.
So what is it then?
Paperclipping is when a previously absent partner, or a date, or an someone who either ghosted you or was benching you, suddenly reappears with a brief, often frivolous communication. And it's designed purely to distract you from moving on.
Like getting a text at 11 p.m. that just says, hey, what's up? Or seeing them text you after 6 months because they noticed you're traveling on your Instagram story.
Those are classic examples. The key distinction is the timing and the content. It's nonspecific, it's low effort, and it's seemingly random.
Okay.
But for this to be true, paperclipping, we look for 3 key criteria.
The anatomy of the clipper. Give us the checklist.
Okay, number 1, a history of absence. This behavior is intrinsically linked to a prior history of ghosting or an abrupt communication cutoff. They had to have disappeared for it to be a reappearance.
Exactly.
Number 2, low effort reappearance. The communication is sporadic and short, just a sentence or two via text, or maybe a quick emoji reaction. It requires almost no emotional investment from them.
And the third, and what I think is the most frustrating part for the person receiving it.
The lack of follow-through. This is the clincher. When you respond, hoping for an explanation or, maybe a genuine interest in meeting up, the conversation it really progresses.
It just dies.
The clipper might disappear again within an hour, confirming there was no intention for actual dialogue or a date. The message dies on the vine, and you're left wondering why they even bothered to ping you at all.
So what is the intent then? If they aren't going to follow up, why waste the 2 seconds it takes to send that text?
The core purpose is purely self-serving. It's about maintaining contact to keep you on the back burner.
Ah, there it is.
They view you as an emotional insurance policy, a safety net. You are explicitly not a priority in their current life, but they are making sure the door isn't locked, just in case their current situation falls apart or they get lonely or desperate later on.
They're keeping their options open at your emotional expense. That's cold.
It is, and that low-cost check-in is what brings us to the real psychological danger of this entire pattern. It's so hard to break out of this cycle because it exploits a core behavioral principle known as intermittent reinforcement.
Intermittent reinforcement. That sounds incredibly clinical, but I think everyone listening has felt the practical application of it, even if they didn't have the term for it.
Absolutely. Think about addiction. Intermittent reinforcement just means that rewards, in this case attention or validation, are delivered sporadically and unpredictably. It is the exact same psychological mechanism that makes gambling and slot machines so addictive.
Okay, let's map that analogy out. The long periods of silence, sometimes weeks or months, that's the loss, right? That's the moment where you think you finally moved on.
Yep.
And the sporadic, low-effort contact, that sudden, unexpected ping, that's the unexpected win.
Exactly. Your brain anticipates the reward. The unpredictability creates this intense anticipation and excitement, which drives a release of dopamine. This keeps the recipient perpetually hooked, constantly anticipating that the next low-effort message might finally be the one that leads to something real.
And that cycle of attention and withdrawal it's genuinely emotionally damaging. It's not just annoying, it's a form of manipulation because it specifically blocks closure.
It creates chronic psychological distress. The ambiguity prevents you from definitively closing that emotional chapter. Instead, it ignites hope only to dash it repeatedly, which leads to persistent anxiety, confusion, constant rumination.
Oh, yeah.
You spend hours analyzing the 3 words they sent, and eventually self-doubt. You can end up questioning your own judgment or even your self-worth because you're constantly chasing this inconsistent source of validation.
So we've talked about the victim's experience. What does this intermittent pattern say about the person doing the paperclipping?
It tells us that the behavior is almost always self-serving and rooted in their own emotional deficiencies. For the clipper, that sporadic text is a very low-cost method for securing what we call a narcissistic supply, or, more simply, a low-stakes ego check.
Just checking if they still got it.
They are fishing for proof that they still matter. Any response they get confirms their relevance without requiring them to commit, be vulnerable, or spend any real time.
It's maintenance of the ego at almost zero cost.
Precisely. And in many cases, this behavior is linked to an avoidant attachment style. These are individuals who deeply value their autonomy and fear vulnerability and intimacy.
So this is perfect for them.
It's a perfect system. Paperclipping allows them to satisfy a minimal occasional need for connection, that little ego boost, while rigidly maintaining emotional and physical distance.
And we can't ignore how the wider system enables this. I mean, we have dating apps that present an endless carousel of profiles. Doesn't that just normalize this whole back burner mentality?
It absolutely does. The sheer volume of options fosters a culture of disposability. People are treated less like unique individuals and more like, commodities.
Mm.
Where you can constantly swipe for the better option, there's no immediate pressure to commit to the person in front of you.
Right.
And because communication happens behind a screen, the lack of face-to-face interaction just completely erodes accountability for poor behavior.
So if you are listening and recognizing a few Clippies in your own text threads right now,
Yeah.
how do you stop the addictive cycle? How do we reclaim that emotional energy?
The first critical step is recognizing that passive acceptance just reinforces the manipulation. If you keep responding, you're essentially confirming that their low-effort ping works.
Mm.
Self-respect requires immediate and decisive boundary enforcement.
Which means using the pause and think rule. Before your hand instinctively grabs the phone to respond, you have to audit the message. Ask yourself, will answering this message genuinely enhance my life, or is it simply designed to feed the other person's ego?
And if the answer is the latter, the path is clear. We generally recommend adopting one of 3 tiers of a counter strategy, depending on the severity of the past ghosting and the depth of the pain it caused.
Tier 1 is the ultimate hard stop, I'm guessing.
Yes, Tier 1, ultimate termination. This is the strongest recommendation. Ignore and block. This is the strategy of putting down the yo-yo.
I like that.
It requires radical self-action, but it's the only way to completely starve the clipper of the validation they're seeking. It protects your self-esteem, and it provides closure through your own action rather than waiting for them to provide it.
But I wonder if that's easier said than done. For someone who's really struggling with that intense anticipation from intermittent reinforcement, isn't blocking emotionally just incredibly difficult to execute?
It is absolutely the hardest path initially because you are actively choosing certainty, which feels like a loss over the chance of that win. But you have to reframe it. The short-term emotional pain of blocking is so much less than the chronic anxiety of remaining on their back burner.
That's a long-term investment in yourself.
That's why we emphasize that this is you prioritizing your value.
Okay, but what if blocking feels too drastic and you still feel like you need to force some clarity for your own peace of mind?
Then you can move to Tier 2, assertive clarity. This is a single, direct confrontation designed to force intent from the commitment-avoidant clipper. You send a brief, level message, something like, I am not comfortable with random texts. Are you attempting to reconnect seriously or just checking in?
And what happens then? They just disappear.
Because paper clippers are commitment avoidant, asking them to articulate a serious intention compels them to retreat almost instantly. They will realize the interaction now requires effort, and they will likely disappear again, which confirms the ping was low effort all along. You get clarity, and the cycle ends.
And finally, the conditional tier.
Tier 3, minimal investment. And this is only advisable if the past relationship was extremely casual and the risk of re-escalation is negligible. You reply minimally and factually. A simple, I'm well, no further correspondence needed. But you have to rigidly enforce that no follow-up rule. The overall objective across all 3 tiers is exactly the same. Invest your time only in relationships that demonstrate consistency, clarity, and genuine effort.
This has been a truly illuminating deep dive. We've moved beyond simple definitions to understand that powerful psychological trap of intermittent reinforcement that fuels paperclipping and really all these other low-effort dating trends.
And just remember, the clipper's actions reflect their own deep-seated emotional efficiencies and their fear of vulnerability. It is not a reflection of your worth or your value. You deserve consistent effort.
Which leads us to our final thought for you to chew on. Consider the deeper consequence of the whole digital dating ecosystem. The paradox of endless choice, having that endless carousel of profiles available, it actively encourages the back burner mentality. It normalizes the idea that people are disposable. This environment makes true commitment a struggle for everyone, not just the clipper, because we are constantly seeking the perceived better option just around the corner. So the question to ask yourself is, how much energy are you redirecting away from meaningful potential in the hopes of winning a jackpot that might never actually come?